Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my quarter 1 reading wrap up. I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read between January and March, which is just, I know everyone says this, but I just can't believe that it's already April. Like, where did the time go? I feel like I'm still in December. It's like really weird. Anyways, we're gonna be talking about the 16 books that I've read so far this year. So far in 2026, I have read 16 books. I've read 7 romance books, 3 fantasies, 3 thrillers, 1 fiction, and I've had 2 DNFs. So honestly, a little bit of a slow reading year so far for me. I think that about this time last year, I had probably already read like 20 books or maybe a little bit more. I don't have like the exact number for you guys, but it was definitely more. And I think I've just been going through a little bit of a slow little reading slump a little bit, but that's totally fine. I found quite a few favorites this year so far, so honestly can't really complain. So by the way, if you want to hear all of my like exact thoughts like in the moment seeing me read some of these books, I'd say like 90% of these books are in reading vlogs on my channel or my other channel from before I switched to doing only book stuff on this one. So if you want to see any of my like live opinions and everything, they're all in my reading vlogs. So let's start off with my January reads. So the first book that I completed in 2026 was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I don't know, it's not that I didn't enjoy this book, but I was very confused most of the time. I didn't really understand what was going on. We're basically following our female main character, Scarlett. She has been writing to Legend every single year, trying to get an invitation to Caraval, which is basically this whole like festival sort of thing that happens once a year. Honestly, I don't understand the magic system. I just know that the whole game was her trying to find her sister in the game. Like somehow she was involved. Don't ask me questions. I don't remember. Honestly, this wasn't very memorable to me because I was so confused most of the time because I couldn't differentiate what was real versus what was part of the game, because you're not supposed to believe anything that happens in Caraval. So our female main character, Scarlett, she didn't really know what was going on or what was real most of the time. So it's like, how are we supposed to know what's real? And I think I just didn't really enjoy that because, I don't know, when I'm reading a book, I want to know what's actually happening. So I don't know, wasn't necessarily for me. So I don't think I'm going to continue this trilogy, but I did just recently buy Once Upon a Broken Heart because I really want to read that trilogy, or at least try it. So this was book number 1. And then I picked up It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. And if you know, you know, I love Annabelle Monaghan. I've read every book that she's ever written, and this, honestly, I'm so sad to say this, but this was honestly a bit of a miss for me. And it wasn't that I didn't really enjoy it. I still had so much fun with it and I really love this book. It's just I didn't connect to the couple or the characters very much. I just wasn't too hooked into their story. But of course I love her writing and her storytelling, the way that she can describe a setting and make like literally just put you there. So good. So I didn't necessarily love this one, but of course I'm still gonna read every book that she ever puts out because I've read all of them, and I would still recommend this for the summer. I just like, personally, I just couldn't connect to it, but I could see how other people could. And then this next one I don't have the physical copy for, but it is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I don't know how to talk about this book. I don't think I've ever cried as much as I did while reading this book. And the thing is, it's classified as a romance book, but if I'm being honest, I would not categorize it as that. I mean, yeah, the romance is like a big plot in it, but it's just like the tragedy and everything that happens in it is so strong, and it's such a huge plot in the book that like I would almost classify it as more of just like a fiction with this plot of romance. I don't even know how to describe this book, but we're basically following our main character. I believe her name is Ella. That could be so wrong. That could be so wrong. But she has 2 twins and she's a single mother, and basically her brother dies in the military, and so then his dying wish is basically for his best friend to go take care of her and her kids and make sure that they're okay. We're basically following that, and I don't think that anyone really understands how much this book is going to hurt you until you read it, because I had seen so many people on TikTok cry into this book. I'm like, please. I'm sure I'll cry like a little bit, but like, how sad can a romance book actually be? That's why I'm not classifying this book as a romance, because there's like, just can't. Everyone, please go read this book, but also look up trigger warnings. I don't know, it was just so sad, and this is a book that like I want to recommend to people, but at the same time I would never recommend it because of how tragic it is. Honestly traumatizing, a little traumatizing honestly. So next I picked up the new release In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams, which is the 4th and final book in the When in Rome, Kentucky series. This one follows Madison, who is the 4th sibling of these books, and basically this whole series just follows these 4 siblings and their love interests and just whatever they're going through in their lives at the time. And I just love this series. It's just like the most wholesome small town romance series that I've ever read. And this one, at first I did rate it 5 stars because I had so much fun reading it, but then I kind of knocked it down to 4 stars once I kind of like got out of that like headspace because it wasn't sticking with me like a normal 5-star would. But I would really recommend this series, and honestly it was so sad to finish this book knowing that the series was completely over. Honestly, this month was just of crying. I cried a lot in January. And then I don't have the physical copy of this book either, but it is Dear Debbie by Frida McFadden, and this book honestly kind of convinced me that I'm a little bit done with reading her books. I just think that I'm kind of over this sort of thriller where, I don't know, I'm kind of over thrillers period, but especially this kind of thriller. And maybe it's just her books, they're just very simple and plain, like the writing style specifically, it's very like simple and there's no thought process. Everything is told to us so directly that it's like, okay, leave nothing to the imagination, tell us exactly how we're supposed to feel. Like, I don't know, I'm just kind of over her books. I'm sorry if the camera angle changed at all. I just had to change my camera battery, unfortunately. But next I read The Storm by Rachel Hawkins, and in this we are following like multiple different timelines and multiple different hurricanes that occur at this one inn in Alabama. And in the present timeline we're following Jen, who she is the inn owner currently because it was her parents' inn, but it's kind of like gone to her, but she's not really happy being the inn owner, but it's kind of just like the cards she was dealt. And in the past timeline, a woman named Lo Bailey, she allegedly murdered her lover in, I believe it was like 1984 during a hurricane, and it's never been actually proven, so there's no evidence that proves that she's actually guilty, but everyone thinks that she is. And so in the present timeline, she comes back to the inn with someone who is trying to write her memoir about what actually happened, and he wants her side of the story. And so they're back at the inn, and so Jen's dealing with that and like trying to learn about her story. And Lo is a big character in this, and you don't know if she's guilty or not, so we're getting her in the present timeline. We don't know if she actually murdered someone or if she's innocent. And then in the past timeline we're kind of going through multiple different hurricanes. We follow Lo's parents, we follow I believe her grandparents as well, and then we follow Lo when she was a kid during another hurricane and her friendships. It's just really good. And honestly, whenever I think of Rachel Hawkins books, I don't necessarily first think of them as thrillers. I think of them more as historical fiction with a subplot of thriller, kind of. I don't know, they're more fiction-y in my eyes, but maybe I'm just used to reading Frida McFadden books and I don't really know what thrillers are supposed to be like. So I love her books and I will always recommend them. And then I actually picked up another thriller, which is so unlike me. I never read this many thrillers in a row, but I picked up My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney, and I listened to this because I didn't have it physically, wasn't available through Libby, wasn't on Kindle Unlimited, but I needed another new release to read for a video. So I picked up this one and I listened to it entirely, and at first I was so hooked because this woman, she goes out on a run, and when she comes back to her house she can't get into her house, like her key won't work, so she knocks on her door, and this woman opens the door and she looked exactly like her. She's wearing her dress that she was supposed to wear later that evening, and then her husband comes to the door and he has no idea who she is, or he claims to have no idea who she is. And I just felt like this specific thriller maybe wasn't my thing, but honestly maybe I'm just out of thrillers at this point. Maybe I just am not enjoying this genre very much anymore. But then I picked up Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and I read this in my Valentine's Day sort of reading vlog, and I thought that this was such a sweet romance book just for the summer. where is it? Literally one of my favorite books of all time. I love it so much, and I know that this is an interconnected standalone series, so this is the second book. Well, Just for the Summer is the third. So in yours truly, we are following Brianna and Jacob, and Jacob has really bad anxiety, and we kind of see that through his point of view, and the way that he's acting towards other people is a little cold, just because they don't know he has anxiety, but we know. So we know that he's not a bad guy, but he's coming off as a bad guy. And so he starts his new job in this hospital where Brianna also works, and so he's a new employee there. He doesn't really introduce himself to anyone. He's not very warm right away to anyone, and so Brianna immediately thinks that he's like this bad guy or just like not the nicest. But then we sort of start to see them interact and send letters to each other. They start writing letters to each other, so they kind of learn about each other. She learns that he's not this bad guy, he's just really struggling with anxiety. Literally have never seen anxiety written so well in a book before, or honestly represented in any sort of media before, and just the way that Abby Jimenez wrote it just made me feel so seen. And I think that she truly did such a wonderful job of making it so realistic and comforting to other people with anxiety. So I really appreciated that, and I didn't love this as much as Just for the Summer, but I did really enjoy it, and I would highly recommend it. And then for that same reading vlog, I picked up Accidentally Yours by Christina Lauren, which was just like her little Valentine's Day novella that they put out this year. And honestly, I think if I remember correctly, this was like a very short novella, like 90 pages, so it's honestly a little unmemorable for me. If my memory serves me correctly, I believe this woman, our FMC, she joins this Zoom meeting on accident, and it's like these guys in a business meeting, and she basically like craps on their whole marketing scheme and everything. Like she totally like bashes them, and I'm like, chill, you don't know these people. And then she ends up like getting this job offer, I believe from the same company, because whoever it is, I think it's our MMC, he thinks that she has really good ideas and like that she will be able to do a better job. I don't know, I think that that was a little far-fetched and a little crazy. But then we're watching them email back and forth, and they sort of like create this relationship online, but at the same time they live in the same apartment complex, and we know that our FMC has had like a little like crush, like a little like neighbor apartment crush on him, but like they don't know that they're emailing. It was just like a fun, cute little read, and I would definitely recommend it for like Valentine's Day, or if you're just in the mood for like a quick romance but you don't necessarily want to commit to a whole book. I would recommend it. Hey, this is me forgetting to intro to the next month. Oh my god. I just realized that I've been talking about all the books that I've read in February without even saying that I'm okay. So The Storm On has been February, by the way. I literally just forgot that I didn't intro February. So the last book that I read in February is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and this is a book that was in a reading vlog that ended up getting scrapped, so you'll never see my actual physical reading it. But the reading vlog was Alexia picking 2 books for me to read, and it was this one and then the next book that you'll see. I don't think that this sort of book is for me, but I don't know, I wasn't really in a fantasy mood. I don't know if I like this sort of dystopian world where it's like unrealistic almost, because I like the dystopian books where it's like the Hunger Games, where like unfortunately something like that could happen, but like with this, it's like, yeah, it's like a real world. We're following these students at Yale in these secret societies and stuff like that, but there's magic involved, there's ghosts and stuff like that, so it's like almost real. It's almost this dystopian vibe because we're in a real setting. We're talking about Wawa and Taco Bell and stuff like that, but then you throw in ghosts, and my mind was just like, I could not connect to this book. I did like our female main character, and I did like some of the topics that were talked about in this book, but honestly not for me. So now going into our March reads, we started this month so strong. We have Bear Time by Frederick Bachman. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I finished it, and I was annotating it so much. And honestly, the only reason why I'm sad that I scrapped that reading vlog was because I wanted you guys to see my reactions and my reading of this book, because I feel like, oh, this book is just so good. Everybody needs to read this book, and I want so desperately to read the next 2 books in this little trilogy. So we're basically following this vast cast of characters, and we're kind of just like within chapters we switch between which character we're following, and it's not in their point of view, it's third person, but we're we're seeing how they're all feeling in these different moments, if that makes sense. And we're basically just seeing them live their everyday lives and how their lives all revolve around hockey, because in this town of Beartown, hockey is a very important thing amongst all the people who live there, because they're basically a town that is very forgotten. It is not an important town whatsoever, and so the only thing really giving this town spirit is their hockey. And so basically this team needs to win in order to like gain that spirit back, kind of like put this town back on the map. And so we're following all of these characters and how hockey sort of like revolves all around their lives, and then something very tragic happens to a girl, a character in this book, and then we're seeing how that tragic event not only impacts her but impacts everyone else in this book. And it is just so crazy. Oh my gosh, I can't stop thinking about this book. I don't want to say what the main topic is because I do think that it is a big spoiler. Make sure you look up trigger warnings if you have specific triggers that you're sensitive to. Otherwise, don't look up trigger warnings because it will be a spoiler, if that makes sense. So I don't want to say what the trigger warning is because it would be a spoiler, but the topic, the sensitive topic that is covered in this book, Frederick Bachman did such an incredible job of being super sensitive about it, but also being very realistic in the way that someone who goes through something like that would act and feel, and how they would go about their lives every day after something like that happens. So literally incredible. You will end up caring so deeply about most of the characters, literally all of them pretty much. I need the second book so badly, and please, if you're watching this and you have not yet read this book, please, I'm begging you to go read this and then tell me your thoughts on it, please. And then next I picked up Just Friends by Haley Pham, and I was so excited for this book. I've been watching Haley on YouTube for years and I've been following her writing journey, of course, and so I've just been so excited for her to finally have her moment with her book. And so why I personally think that this book was a miss for me is, for one, the writing style. I just don't think that her specific writing style, maybe in this book only, maybe we'll see a different one in her future books. This is a debut book. We don't know what the rest of her future holds with her writing and stuff like that, but I just feel like her writing in this one specifically was not necessarily for me. And I think that a lot of the ways that her characters were acting and some of the things they were saying were just very young, I feel like, and they were very immature, honestly. And I believe they're in their young 20s, like I want to say they're like 22, and I just felt like they were acting more like they were 17. And also, this is a past and present timeline book. They knew each other from when they were children, yet we're only seeing very small snippets of it, and only snippets from starting in high school, so we missed like years of their history. And so I had a really hard time connecting to them because I didn't know their history and I couldn't really feel their chemistry in the present. So honestly, just not for me. But if you're watching this and you haven't read this book yet because you've seen a lot of mixed reviews, my advice is always to make your own opinion. Everyone has different book tastes, and book tastes differ from person to person, so you never know how you're gonna feel about this despite what people on the internet are saying. So I would just try it for yourself and you can form your own opinion. And then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, and this was my first Catherine Center book. Won't be my last, that's for sure. I thought that it was so much fun. And in this book we are following Hannah, and she is a bodyguard, and she, at the beginning of the book, she's going through a lot. She just lost her mom, she's going through a breakup, she's going through like a friendship breakup as well, and so she's going through a lot. She wants an escape. She wants her boss to send her on a job that's like far away. She wants a trip far away. She needs a distraction from everything that's going wrong in her life, but her boss ends up giving her a job that unfortunately is not a faraway job. It is one that's taking place in her current location of Houston, and so she's really bummed at first until she realizes that it's for this incredibly famous actor, Jack Stapleton. In the movie casting for this movie, Dean from Gilmore Girls plays Jack Stapleton, so I was able to picture him and Blair from Gossip Girl this entire book. The entire time I read this, I was picturing them. Made it even better. And so we're watching their dynamic, and they're both going through things personally, but they're also not making all of their struggles their entire personalities, which I really appreciated, because I feel like in a lot of romance books, what their character struggles become their entire personalities, and then they sort of like start taking it out on each other, but at the same time like help each other with them, if that makes sense. And it was so much fun. I genuinely had so much fun with this book, and it was a clean romance. There was nothing physical about it whatsoever, and I really appreciated that as well, because I feel like even in closed door romances, a lot of the couples' interest in each other comes from physical attraction, and very little of it comes from like emotional attraction and like how they make each other feel and stuff like that. So I really appreciated that with this book. And then I read Lady Tremaine, which was my March book of the month book. I don't think I've ever read a book of the month book the same month that I got it. I'm breaking records here. And so I was not expecting to enjoy this so much. I picked it up and I think I read the first like 80 pages in one day. I literally laid on my floor, my tile floor, and I could not stop reading this. It's a retelling of Cinderella's stepmother, and so we're seeing the current timeline as the same timeline as the movie Cinderella, but then we're also following her past. We're learning about her past, we're learning about her whole history and how she became this evil stepmother, and we're just seeing a whole new perspective on the movie Cinderella, and we're kind of just getting like an inside look into the world of their world. And honestly, I was really enjoying it at first, but then I sort of got uninterested a little bit, because honestly, if you're thinking about the movie Cinderella, not much happens, if we're being so honest. It's a very short film. It's like I think an hour long or something like that. Basically, it's Cinderella trying to go to the ball. So if you're thinking about this book, what else is there to write about? Obviously, we learn about her history and everything, and then we're following in the present timeline where she's trying to get her daughters invited to the ball, and then we're seeing Cinderella trying to get ready to go to the ball, and then she goes to the ball and she meets the prince and everything. But then I feel like we started to take this really like dark twist almost, and we learned some like secrets in the whole like royal palace and everything going on in the kingdom and everything, and I just felt like it was very random. Like there were no hints of that throughout the entire book, and all of a sudden we were just in this like dark place, and it was just like, okay, where on earth did this come from? I feel like if we hinted at it throughout like at least like from halfway throughout the book until like further, I would have enjoyed it a lot more, rather than just like the last 50 or so pages being about it, if that makes sense. So honestly, loved this so much. It opened my eyes to a whole new genre that I want to read. I want to read more retellings. I actually bought another one because of this one, so really enjoyed it. Her writing is phenomenal. I'm so upset that she's a debut author, because I would read more of her books literally right now, and I will always recommend this. I don't think anyone should expect too much to go on in this book, because if you're expecting like a lot of plot, you're not gonna get that. So that's that. So then, like I said, I did have 2 DNFs, both of them being in March, and one of them was Famous Last Words, and I got like 50% through this book, I think, maybe a little bit more. We're basically following our female main character. She wakes up one morning, her husband's not there. It's like her first day back to work after maternity leave, and it's their daughter's first day of preschool, I believe, and he's just not there, and it's very strange. And he basically leaves this letter on the dresser, and it's like a goodbye, but it's not too obvious that it's a goodbye, and so she's confused. She thinks that he's just off working somewhere, and she's texting him, calling him, he's not responding, and then she goes off to work, and police officers show up to her office and tell her that her husband's involved in a hostage situation, but he's not a hostage, he is the gunman. And so then we're following this hostage situation. We're getting the perspective of the wife, and we're also getting the perspective of the hostage negotiator. So we're getting like all of these different inside looks into this hostage situation. We're getting the wife of the gunman, which is so crazy, and then we're getting the hostage negotiator, which means that we're getting like an inside like close-up look to the investigation and everything. So it really had me. I was so hooked in the first 50%. Then we skipped 7 years in the future. We had a 7-year time jump, and so then we were following both of our characters in 7 years into the future, and the hostage situation is long over, and we don't know where her husband is, and she's dating again, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like it got so slow. I was so bored, and I was so disappointed, because I thought it was gonna be such a good thriller because of how entertained, how intrigued I was at the beginning, and then it just totally fell off. So that was DNF number 1, and that was my first DNF ever, actually, so that was so difficult for me to do, especially because I was so far into it already, but had to do it. And then the second DNF was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I know that this is such an unpopular opinion. I literally got a comment on Instagram or TikTok or something, and it was someone saying like, wow, I've never seen a DNF for Dark Matter before. I'm like, yeah, I know. And it wasn't that this book is bad or anything. I just don't think I'm a sci-fi girly, and this is a book that I would still recommend to other people. Even though I DNF'd it, I would still recommend it because it wasn't bad. It's just not for me. And basically our male main character, he's at home one night and he's making dinner for his wife and his son, and the three of them are just in their kitchen, whatever, and his wife tells him to go to a bar, celebrate this thing with his friend, have a drink, and then be home by the certain time and have dinner with them. So he goes out to the bar, he's drinking, and then on his way home he gets taken by someone and it becomes this hostage situation, and wakes up not knowing where he is, and then he escapes this hospital thing that he's in. He goes home and his house is not his house, his wife isn't there, his son isn't there, and he finds her at some art thing, and she's not married to him, he doesn't have a son, his son hasn't been born, he's in a different profession, and it's just like, I don't know, it was very much like giving like multiverse sort of thing, and I thought it was really interesting at first, but it was very slow, even though that sounds like not slow. I just feel like the chapters were very long, a lot was being said, but not a lot was happening. I guess, I don't know, it's hard to explain because I just wasn't liking it, and I think it was very evident from the beginning because it wasn't too sciencey at first, but then we did start getting into some science talk, and I did try switching over to the audiobook, couldn't do it. So I just think that this book, this genre, science fiction, just is not for me personally. But again, nothing against this book, I would still recommend it. So with that being said, these are the 16 books that I read so far in 2026, and I don't obviously count the 2 DNFs towards my 2026 reading goal, so we're technically still at 14 books that we've read this year, but I needed to include those 2 DNFs into this video. So these plus all of those other Kindle versions, audiobook versions of books are the ones that I have read so far this year, and so far I have had such a good reading year. I found some of my favorite books this year, and I've decided on a new genre that I want to read more of. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that all of you guys are having such a good reading year this year. I hope that you found a 5-star. I hope that you found multiple 5 stars, and I will see you guys back in quarter 2 for all of my April to June reads, which is crazy. So crazy that that's literally, I'm gonna blank and it's gonna be quarter 2 already. So crazy. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys so soon. Bye guys.